So Teams did something
Hmm.
that I don't know if I've seen this one before, but it's kind of a new low, at least in my brain.
Okay.
So I was in the office this week or whatever. I come back, turn my computer on, boot it up, and this was there. This
Hey,
was
wow.
so it gets worse. So it's like level up your AI transformation. The Microsoft 365 Community Conference. You'll discover how AI can accelerate your career, your team, and your business, or whatever. So I clicked learn more just because I wanted
Hmm.
to, in fact, not learn more, but wanted to see what this was. This is a
Right.
third party
So
conference.
that was my first question. And then my second sort of thought was, I'm not even sure if it matters. It's like an ad either way.
Yeah, like this is,
So I don't remember who I discussed this with recently, but from like history, I mean, Microsoft used to be heavily involved in, roadshows and third party
yep,
conferences. And at some point they kind of scaled it in and they had the three or whatever, four maybe major conferences, the two big ones that we know, that most
mm-hmm,
people are familiar with, Build and Ignite, got rid of all the smaller things. And like a lot of companies got used to not spending money during the pandemic. And now they're like, you know what, maybe it makes more sense to support these third party conferences because we could just send one exec, it'll
yep.
be cheap. It'll be great for them. People love to see that. And yeah, so when I saw that, I was like, this is part
Yep.
of that little initiative. But it's a weird. Now, can you opt out of this kind of a
I have no
notification?
idea. I mean, I can. The only thing I can tell you is that you're not opt out by default.
Yeah. Well, yeah, sure.
So
I've never seen such a thing, but that's not great.
yeah, and someone will say, "Well, it's their thing," or what? Yeah, the problem is this is not the first one. They'll see how many people click it and how many people were driven to a location, and they'll be like, "Oh, we can do this. This is an
You know,
economic
you
lever."
know, maybe I'm just getting old and I don't give a shit anymore, but I'm really getting tired of people apologizing for these giant companies doing bad things. Like it makes sense. Like, like autosave and in Word and the Office apps like only works in OneDrive, and it's like, well, it's been like this forever, and it's like, yeah, because they're a monopoly and they're behaving badly. It's not a technical limitation, and it's like, well, they build stuff into SharePoint, and I'm like, do I have to go see point A? It's the same thing.
Yeah.
Like autosave could work anywhere, it just doesn't, and it doesn't because they're terrible, and you just put up with terrible or you don't, I guess. But like, do not apologize for it. Don't try to pretend that there's a reason that is anything other than them being terrible. What you just showed me is kind of the same thing. So we all have our own little breaking point, I guess.
Well, the good news is, Paul Thurrott, because of us, and I mean this, because of
Mm-hmm.
us, YouTube now has 1 billion monthly podcast listeners. We,
Yeah, and it almost wasn't because of us because they tried to take it away from us.
yeah, they did try to, we almost got locked out of the account. That was a tale for another day. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Oh, I've
that's
written the
us.
tale. It's yep. It's the size of War and Peace, but what are you gonna
Well, the important thing though is Nvidia is making money hand over fist, and
do? I'm kind of surprised the story hasn't turned to slowing growth. And it says something about Nvidia that 78% or whatever the growth was in revenues is like less than it was before. But
mhm.
briefly they were doing 100+%. I think they were doing 200%. But yeah, the whole world is still going gaga for AI, so they'll be okay.
And then there's also the Amazon's new thing.
Yeah. Do you find it odd or coincidental that they don't have video from this event?
I didn't even think
Like
about that, to be honest.
like they're worried that like they're like, listen, this guy's had a meltdown before. Let's just let's if something goes wrong in a live event, we'll just gas everybody, and
Oh my god.
it never happened.
And that's why YouTube has a billion podcast listens, right there,
Yeah.
right there. Yeah, I don't know. I've
So
looked at it. Just I,
you know what? I look. The truth is, everything's going to have this stuff,
yep.
and what Amazon has going for it is some hundreds of millions of people that pay for Prime and get this for free. They have Echo devices and whatever devices out in the world, and so I don't know. Like there were only a couple. Well, I mean, I guess technically there were three that were digital assistants that were, you know, popular to some degree. So
Mm-hmm.
two of those three are sticking with the brand, with Apple and Amazon, and moving those things forward into this new era. That makes sense to me. And then I have to say, like, the big problem with the Google Assistant was that you had to say the name of the company to invoke this thing. So I think they finally settled on a brand that's pretty good, right? Like Gemini is, at least,
Yeah.
it's unique or whatever. So
Yeah.
you're all gonna, these things will all have their own. Well, they'll all be very similar, I think, but they have their own audiences, right? And I think each of them is big enough to warrant the work and attention and all that stuff. And I think it will be fine. I just, not a big fan of Amazon hardware because I've used it.
Yeah, I was gonna say, because
Um,
what have they produced? You're like, that's really good.
Bring me to the one premium device they've ever made that was, super high quality and you wanted to keep it forever. Like, I know people have Kindles and things, but they're cheap and slow and kind of terrible, frankly. And, don't get me started on like Kindle Fire with like what's the most bargain bid processor we can put in this thing with the least amount of, and we have our own stupid store for some reason. And,
No,
you
that
know,
solved that problem.
yeah. Yeah. Well, no, they haven't, because they still have it on their
Oh, they
devices,
still
right?
have it on
Like,
their own devices. Yeah.
yeah. So, yeah, I wish they had solved that problem. That would have been a great news story, because then, I think people would like that would open up that market to more people. I do think there is a market for inexpensive Android tablets. It's just that you have to jailbreak it or whatever you do
Mm-hmm.
to get Google Play. And like, nobody's going to do that. It's stupid. So, anyway, I think it's going to be fine. I feel like it's just going to fall outside of my existence, but they could prove me wrong. You know, we pay for Amazon Prime like most good Americans or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah.
We'll see.
We'll tell you the most interesting thing that was announced while I was up at the office is this new framework desktop. Looks super interesting, completely modular, very high performance, by the way.
Yeah. So I'm excited they did this. I'm excited they've gone with AMD now on
Yeah.
a couple of devices, right? But I guess maybe that's only in the 13. So the desktop must be Intel.
No, the desktop is AMD.
It is.
So
Okay.
they're
So, all right,
Ryzen
that's
AI
interesting.
Max. Um,
Yeah. So the problem with those chips, and maybe I misread this, but I know at least on the laptop, the RAM is on the module, but the processor, like, it's on the what they would call the motherboard, I guess. So you can still swap it out, but it's like those laptops, like it's kind of attached, to the RAM. So you
mhm.
do that at purchase time. So maybe that's different on the desktop, but I know on the laptop, at least they, for performance reasons, they obviously wanted to not do that, but they said, the performance difference is so great, like, we can't not do it.
Yeah, I mean they're pretty reasonably priced.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I've always liked their stuff. I was saying this yesterday, somewhere, maybe in a Windows Weekly, I was talking about, if you think about like it's a 13.5-inch screen on a laptop. So
Mhm.
3.1 pounds, like, they're not big, bulky, boxy things, like, they're actually pretty nice. And they have all the swappable parts, so you can do different colors and things. And I, I keep talking about this, but like, these laptop chips are amazing for games now. And then with a desktop, it's probably going to be kind of off the charts, like, for
Yeah.
just mainstream gaming and stuff. Like, I think it's going to be really good.
Yep.
Yeah, it is interesting.
Yeah.
I'll get a Mac Mini. I don't care.
Yeah. Yeah. Had to go there, didn't you?